What's going on, everyone? So the Phoenix Suns have made a trade and a draft selection. They landed two centers. So part of the Kevin Durant trade, they got the number 10 pick, in which they drafted Khaman Maluach, and he is very likely going to be their franchise center. I'm actually a little surprised he fell as far as he did, all the way to 10th. To the Phoenix Suns. I mean, that was an absolute no-brainer at that point because they really needed a center. There was even talks when they were trying to make the Kevin Durant trade that they were very focused on trying to acquire a center in that process. And then fast forward, and not only did we get the announcement that they traded for Maluach, but they also ended up trading for Mark Williams of the Charlotte Hornets. So, per Shams, the Phoenix Suns land Mark Williams for the 29th pick in this draft, as well as a 2029 first. So basically 2 first-round picks, one of which will be the least favorable because they have a couple in 2029. So that was very surprising. That was a very surprising move in that regard. Obviously, the Los Angeles Lakers had traded for Mark Williams and then ended up nixing that trade because of a failed physical, right? But what's crazy is, I mean, Lakers, right? Laker tax saying they would have had to give up Dalton Connect, a first-round pick, as well as unprotected first-round pick, by the way, and a pick swap in order to land him. Now, you could argue what's more favorable, right? Because they traded the 29th pick in this draft plus a 2029 first, which will be the least favorable first. So you could argue maybe it was slightly worse. But, I mean, still 2 firsts, right? For a player who was drafted 17th instead of 29th, if you want to look at the scale. And then another first plus a pick swap, right? Now, the Lakers, everyone, the consensus was that, hey, they're overpaying, that it was an overpay. However, I will say that, when it comes to the Lakers landing a franchise center, the idea was he was a young potential franchise center. Kind of made some sense in that regard. But seeing Phoenix end up getting Mark Williams, same things that I thought for the Lakers, right? He is a good, young, talented, gifted center that has plenty of upside and potential, right? He's a guy that already has shown that he could be a 20-10 center, right? It's kind of interesting to see how does he fare with Maluach, and, they still have Nick Richards, so do they end up trading Nick Richards, right? One of the things that they really needed was the center. So the Phoenix Suns definitely solved the center position, so kudos to them for doing that, right? Especially after the Kevin Durant trade. You get a kind of proven center, right? And Mark Williams, a guy that could come in and be a quality piece for them, but then also go and land a young, what many believe might end up being a franchise center in Khaman Maluach, which, again, they could be a win-win for them either way. And also this gives them the opportunity to kind of slowly bring Khaman in. All right, they don't have to rush him as like their starter or like the primary backup or anything like that. They can, they still could maybe have him be the backup and trade Nick Richards. We'll see how that goes. But it is possible that they kind of just take their time, ease him in. He's young, he's talented, he's gifted. But Phoenix is a team that's they're clear, they want to continue to win, right? Even the owner and Matt Ishbia talked about, like, hey, we don't ever want to be that bottom-feeding, tanking team. We want to always be in the best position to compete, right? So you get a guy in Mark Williams that helps you continue to compete now. Hopefully they can move off of Bradley Beal if you're Phoenix, right? I don't see the path to that. Chances are they probably have to end up buying him out, but maybe they're able to do that, right? What do they do with Jalen Green? What do they do with Dillon Brooks? There's kind of conflicting reports in that regard of like, hey, they might keep Jalen Green, but I think you have the same issues you had with Bradley Beal, where him and Devin Booker play the same position, right? They literally play the same position. So I think you're going to have the same issues there. So I do think whether they trade Green right now or later, honestly, I still stand by. I think that they should go and trade Devin Booker. Honest, like genuinely. Because especially more now than ever. Because now you have Jalen Green, you have Maluach, and you have Mark Williams, right? As like a foundation piece, plus Ryan Dunn. So you have this young kind of core that you could grow and develop. The problem is they didn't get any of their picks in the Kevin Durant trade, which I think is just absolutely malpractice at that point. Right? You got to at least get one of your picks, hey, ideally both of them, just because you need to put yourself in a position to where if you do need a bottom out or you do need a tank out, then you can. But I still think the only way to really solve this is to trade Devin Booker, right? And by trading Devin Booker, you might be able to get more foundation pieces to where you might be okay, right? Like you're not going to be a contender right away or anything like that, but maybe you can be good enough to kind of stay afloat, right? And that way you're not fully bottoming out, so your picks aren't, the top 5 pick and maybe like the 17th pick or something like that, especially if you can be a play-in team. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they continue to do and how they continue to go about this, but I think that this is a huge pickup for a Phoenix Suns team, right? I think Phoenix really made out here with Mark Williams and Maluach, and they have the ability to now kind of see over the next few years how that shapes up. Could they maybe even run both of them and go with 2 bigs? Nick Richards is going to have to make a decision on, because if I'm not mistaken, he's on a contract here. I think this is last year and he's $5 million. So my guess is that they'll probably look to trade him. They'll probably look to move him. But we'll see. Time will tell. It's kind of been a little quiet, right, so far, as far as like the trades go. But usually once we start getting later into the draft, those later trades, you'll end up starting to see a bunch of trades and picks and all this other stuff. So hopefully something crazy happens soon, because, we could use a little more traction here. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? Hey, Phil, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about the Phoenix Suns landing, first off, with the number 10 pick, Khaman Maluach, which, he was as high as 5 on the board. That alone is a huge pickup for the Phoenix Suns, right? You got a guy that was looked at in many ways as a top 5 to 7 prospect that you were able to get at number 10, right? So that by itself is inherent value that you got that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And then on top of that, you add in trading for Mark Williams, although maybe the Mark Williams trade happened before, maybe they did the Mark Williams trade and then ended up drafting Maluach. But it's also one of those things, like when you're in that position, even if like the trade did happen and they were finalizing that, and then it was like, oh, Maluach landed, you take the best player available, you take the guy. Again, you can always trade a Nick Richards or whatnot, right? You're still in a position, you're in good shape. So I think that they made the right decision. Even with the trade of Mark Williams, I still think that they made the right call in landing, Maluach, because again, you take the best player available, you put yourself in the best position possible, and you go get the guy, especially a team that needs, they need size. That was one of their big issues last year. Well, now they got plenty of it, right? Now they got all 3 guys, and, maybe they end up kind of keeping all 3 guys. We'll see. Time will tell. But anyway, again, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.